The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast.
Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, and Sam, the Phoenix Suns won by 40 points yesterday. How you doing?
Absolutely great. That was an incredible win. Obviously, we're talking about a win over the Toronto Raptors. They were missing some players, yada, yada, yada. You know, we have to throw...
And so were the Suns.
We have to throw all that out
there. 2 of their
there.
7 shooting guards were gone.
Jalen Bridges, where was he? You know, I mean, like, you know, he really held us out there.
Bradley Beal makes $50 million.
I know.
I'm just saying, they were missing. And if you combine that with Grayson Allen's salary, that's, you know, $67 million of salary that they were missing in that one game. But yes, you're right.
Incredible, you know, back-to-back too. Both teams were on a back-to-back, but after, you know, a fairly mediocre, I mean, not just a mediocre performance, a loss against the Lakers the day before, which actually, like, you know, from an effort perspective, I thought was still reasonable for the Suns, even though they lost. It's just like, you know, I thought they were playing the right guys and they just couldn't make a three in that game. But then they come out against, you know, again, an inferior team, but they blew the hinges off the door. You know, they just had an incredible performance, the likes of which we have not seen from this team this year. And regardless of who you play, you have to play whoever's in front of you. That is a reason to celebrate. And doubly so, you know, the fact that this is not a surprise, as you and I have both believed that these guys should play for a while. But, like, you know, this wasn't beating a team by 40 on the backs of Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, right? It was beating a team by 40. And Tyus Jones actually did play a part in this one. But it was beating a team on the backs of, I mean, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant obviously doing the scoring, but really Oso Ighodaro, Ryan Dunn, and even Cody Martin, I would say.
Yeah,
were like
he was
the
great.
big forces propelling the team to just a massive second quarter that really allowed them to sort of end the game early.
Yeah, and I think Book was the real driving force on the offense of that. But, like, effort-wise, I think the rest of the guys really get a lot of credit for that time. Can I just quickly, I'm sorry to derail talking about the young guys, to have a quick Tyus conversation. Can I just say that, to clarify my opinions of Tyus Jones, I never thought that he should play no role on this team at all. And I think people went a little overboard with just making him the guy to place all of their frustrations on for a pretty long time. My opinion of Tyus was that he shouldn't start because he was struggling to guard starting point guards, and that was it. I think that we got too far away from... like, the conversation for this team has always been either they should have a point guard or they shouldn't have a point guard, which is a very weird black and white conversation to have about this team, where I think a better way to think about it is they have a point guard and a player who probably still slots into the top 7 or 8 players on this team that struggles to start against starting point guards on most teams, but can still play a role as a backup point guard where he's thrived the entirety of his career.
Yeah, and especially,
the struggle I think that we've had is that playing him, Brad, and Book at the same time was basically impossible. Yeah. But especially in games where Brad doesn't play, there's a very clear role, I think, for Tyus Jones to play in this game. And I think the last few games, he's found that role. And even when Brad doesn't play, occasionally starting him is fine.
There's certainly a role for a guard to play, whether that be Tyus Jones or Colin Gillespie, who started last night, his first career start, 16 minutes. Yeah. It didn't do much, honestly, but like, I was just encouraged by the fact that Bud was willing to put him in that position. Honestly, I thought that was interesting, and that he didn't just go for the de facto, what has been his usual move all season long, which is to start Tyus in that position. So, yeah, you could throw out Tyus, you could throw out Gillespie. Even Monte Morris came in for 6 minutes at the end of yesterday's game.
Monte Morris came in and said, 40. We're winning by 40. We're not winning by 34. We're winning by 40, and then hit some threes to make sure it happened.
I mean, he also came in and said, I'm taking these shots, right? So, like, you know, the crowd is cheering for Bol because Bol checks in for the first time, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. they want him to take the shots. He's hesitating a little bit. Monte's going to take those shots. And I still believe, Monte Morris was done a little bit dirty by this organization this year, and there's still an NBA player there. I don't think they're going to make it a real priority to re-sign him, and he'll have to go somewhere else. But yeah, I think he's a solid player. But yeah, to your point, Tyus, he can play a role. It's just a question of, can he play a role when there are teams that can really take advantage of forcing mismatches and abusing him on the defensive end. Toronto, especially in the position they're in with their health right now, is not one of those teams. And so it really worked out last night. They played some of their best defense of the season with Tyus on the floor. He finished a plus 33. So, not because of him, but not like in spite of him either. I think that's a success story for Tyus Jones for sure.
Were you surprised to hear that this was the largest margin of victory since 2009?
Since 2009? I'm not even sure I saw that stat until you just told it to me right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I was surprised.
Yes and no. I guess the 64-win season, if you look back on it, it did feel like there were a lot of games where...
they were the best clutch team in the NBA.
They were the best,
won a ton of
exactly.
clutch games.
Exactly.
I think 17 wins were in the clutch or something like that.
Yeah, right. So and then there was basically a decade in there where they were just terrible. So I guess it's surprising, but not unbelievable. Would you be surprised?
40 points is a lot. That's the real reality of it. Like, especially like in the post 3-point revolution era, it's difficult to demolish a team by more than 20 or 30 because they just hit some threes and get back into it.
My big thing about this game, 40 points, like if you want to win by 40 points, the vast majority of the time you got to play defense, right? Like how many games are there where a team wins 155 to 115, right? Like if you're winning by 40, it's because you played some defense. And this was only the second time all season that the Suns held an opponent to less than 90 points. The other time was...
Less than 90 is pretty crazy in this era of basketball.
Yeah, but it still happens more often than you think. I'll go look at a team. Look, obviously, if I look up like the Oklahoma City Thunder right now, that's an awesome team. But like...
They had like an 89 offense or defensive rating for like the first 30 games of the season.
I'm just going to look up for you how many times the Thunder did that real quick. But yeah, like the only other time... this was a stat I was tracking in the fourth quarter because the fewest points they've held, not just this season... but to any team in the big three, quote unquote, mid three, whatever you want to call it, era, was the Brooklyn Nets scoring 84 on them back in January, a couple months ago. And just, I don't know, the fact that we were like, the Raptors were in danger of setting a new record, taking this team, which is currently 27th in defensive rating, and just were not able to score on them because of the consistent energy. The lineups out there yesterday of Oso and Dunn and Cody Martin. Cody Martin's awesome. Should we start there?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good place to start because he's actually getting minutes and he's new to the team, so it's a good place to start.
You talk about him first because I want to... Okay, OKC,
okay.
Granted, only 5 games this year where OKC has held a team below 90. So it is pretty difficult. However...
And they're the best. It's just hard now because you just hit threes and get back into it.
16 games where OKC has held a team below 100. And I'm going to contrast that with how many times that's happened for the Suns. Do you want to guess before I pull it up? 16 games for OKC.
I'm going to say 7, 8, maybe
3, 4, 5, 7 exactly. Great job. Great guess.
Yeah.
Great guess. It's pretty hard in this era.
It is hard. And it's just it's like there's some luck involved. I just think
gone are the days
teams missing
of,
threes.
Detroit Pistons 84, Indiana Pacers 82, leading scorer Tayshaun Prince with 14 points. It doesn't really happen anymore.
Cody Martin, I want to say, I'm watching this game and I'm thinking, Cody Martin rules. He's out there scrapping. He's out there fighting. He runs hard. He plays hard, has a little bit of dribbling skills. And then honestly, if you look at the box score, we're talking about a guy who went 1 for 6 and scored 2 points. And I think that's really a great demonstration, actually, of what made him good in this game in a way. It's that none of it had to do with his scoring. And he did have 3 wide open threes, including one that nobody was within 20 feet of him. And he missed it pretty badly.
Yeah, not a good shooter, unfortunately, for his career. For those who
for
those who maybe didn't know, and I think we're just expecting him to be like prototypical average 3-and-D guy. I would say he's got less of the 3 and more of the D than your average 3 and D guy, right? So like compare him to his brother. Caleb Martin is a better shooter. But Cody is a career 32% 3-point shooter. He's just not very comfortable.
He ended with 2 points, but here's the other part of it, right? 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals in his minutes, and then of course ended plus 24. He was on the court for one of the biggest runs of the game. And the thing I thought was kind of interesting is as I'm watching him play, like a lot of his effort defensively kind of reminds me of Royce O'Neal, but he's like younger and still a little bit more athletic than Royce O'Neal, and he's like a similar size, I think, to Royce.
Yeah.
And I just think when he comes onto the floor, you notice right away in a similar way to when Josh Okogie would come on the floor, and you would notice right away.
He's more of Royce's
quite
proportions.
the defensive skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't have quite Josh's motor, but it's definitely closer to Josh's motor than Royce's is. Because honestly, this is the way I felt about Royce for years, right? Royce is a good player, but if Royce wasn't, like, if he hadn't over the years built himself into being like a 40% 3-point shooter, he would be in a lot more trouble. Because he just doesn't have quite the motor that he should, to be honest, for a guy of his size in order to really stick around as a perimeter defensive threat. And I feel like you just got a little bit more of that with Cody Martin. He's only played 28 minutes in 2 games. He already has 4 offensive rebounds in 28 minutes as a wing. Those 6 assists.
Very Josh Okogie-esque.
Yeah, very Josh Okogie-esque. 3 steals already, a block. You know, all this in less than 30 minutes. So, you know, people have talked about the team option next year. He's got.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Do you want to set the stage for that then?
No, yeah, I can. I mean, it's a lot of money. I mean, truthfully, for what he is, and it may, you know, you might even want to say it's too much money, but I'm not sure it is.
I'm not sure I would say that. I'm not sure I would agree. It's $8.5 million.
$8.68 million
Yeah.
is actually what it's a team option, and mind you, he will be 30, which I'm kind of surprised by. I thought he was actually younger than that when I was looking up his contract. I noticed his age there.
He was a 24-year-old rookie. Played college for 4 years and transferred. Took a gap year in there somewhere. So
redshirted,
he redshirted like his junior year season or something, and then got an extra year of eligibility. So that's how that happened.
$8.68 million, and I think where I wanted to have the conversation and sort of clarify what we're really looking at with him in this team option year. Because the simple thought that I've seen online, and I think maybe a misunderstanding of the current situation that the Suns are in, or that the Suns can't keep him because they're trying to get out of the second apron, therefore waiving him would allow them to get out of the second apron. And just to be clear on that, it wouldn't. If you just waived him, and if you just waived Micic or whoever, I think he has a team option too.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you're not out of the second apron already. The only way for the Suns to realistically get out of the second apron is to shed salary from one of their larger contract players. Now, that could be, I don't know, trading Grayson into a team's cap space or something, but that would be insane. So the most likely version of that is, as people have talked about who know things much more than we do, is a Kevin Durant trade, and they can use a Kevin Durant trade to potentially get out of the second apron. Or a Brad trade.
Or a Brad trade, as we're going to talk about in the back half of this episode. Right. So your options basically are, if you want to get out of the second apron, KD trade or Brad trade. The only way to do it without trading either of those guys, like you're saying, would basically be waive Cody Martin, waive Micic, and trade, say, Grayson for pretty much nothing back.
Find a way to shed another like $10 million.
Yeah, it's like those two guys, Micic and Martin, by themselves are not going to be enough. You need to shed another 10 or 15 million. So that's going to be like Grayson for a pick. Which they could do. It's just like that's
a
big,
and like a minimum contract.
That's a big price you're paying at that point, and it's difficult to find teams, frankly, with that much cap space. Although it is easier in the summer, but it's just going to be a little bit more difficult. So I think when we're having that conversation at that point, it makes a lot more sense to say, well, okay, Cody Martin for what he is at $8.5 million, you could basically treat him like next year's Josh Okogie. Where you bring in a guy who you're anticipating to start the season, maybe could be an 8th or 9th or 10th man, and maybe at a certain point, whether you're still in the second apron or maybe hopefully just outside of it.
I mean, hopefully you're not, because then you can aggregate his salary with someone else's.
It's true, but could be traded.
Get
right?
Cam Johnson back over here.
So yeah, I think this, as we talk about storylines to watch for in the last 15 games of the season, obviously the big one is, can they catch Dallas? And they're close. But as we talk about some of the long-term storylines, besides just watching Ryan Dunn and Oso and, maybe evaluating a little bit of Colin Gillespie, Cody Martin is another guy to evaluate. And I've been impressed. In just 27 minutes, 2 games so far, has already, left some impact on the team. And I kind of hope, this was how I was thinking about starting the episode, actually, when we started by talking about the Toronto game. Like, I don't really want... Can they shut down Brad?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought this up.
Like, I want to see other guys besides him
he's
play.
out for a week now.
Oh, he is? No, I didn't see that.
He's out for a week now.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
So, I think...
And I don't hate the guy,
point,
but we just have other guys we need to and we want to watch play.
There's been multiple games in the last few weeks that he's started the first half and not played the second half. What are we doing? If he's not healthy, why is he playing through it? They're not better with him on the floor. What's the point of playing him if he's not healthy? Allow him to get fully healthy. If you're worried about getting fined or something, I'm pretty sure you can prove that Brad's not healthy at this point because he misses the second half of most of these games. Like, just give him the opportunity to get fully healthy. If that happens before the end of the season, you could bring him back or whatever. But, like, if he's currently right now playing through something that is prohibiting him from being as good as he possibly can be, which I'm not sure how good that is, but regardless of that, don't play him. Allow these other guys to play. Give them the opportunities to play. And by the way, try not to play Kevin Durant 40 minutes a game too, or Devin Booker 40 minutes a game while we're at it. But in that time, when KD's playing less, Book's playing less, Brad's not playing at all, maybe play Grayson a little less. Maybe play Royce a little less.
I was really happy.
We know what they are.
I was really happy to see Book and KD finally get a game where they only have to play like 29 minutes last night. I mean, it's been way too long since that's happened.
Yes, so now you have the opportunity of playing some other guys a little bit more, and we're going to talk about Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro in a second, but like as we're on the conversation of Cody Martin, in this particular case, this season to me, I know you're trying to make the play-in, and if you can, fine. Like, I don't want to give the Houston Rockets a lottery pick if we can avoid it. Honestly, that's the only reason I'm really thinking about it. I don't think the Suns are going to stand a chance in any playoff series, but if you can avoid giving them a lottery pick, just for my sanity's sake, yeah, let's avoid doing that. But if we're talking about what is important for the rest of the season, you got to know what you have in Cody Martin because you have a choice to make with Cody Martin. And if you can play more of Oso Ighodaro, you can play more of Ryan Dunn right now, and we're about to make that case, you can make the case that makes you a better team anyway. So, just play them anyway.
Well, exactly. It's the entire thing, and let's shift to the conversation about the rookies now because it's like it just makes me think about the 3 center rotation that Bud has been doing for the past couple of games, where he plays Nick Richards to start, and then Mason Plumlee comes in for 6 minutes flops on his ass. And then he's like, okay, Oso comes in third and ends up playing the best of the three, and then he gets to play the rest of the game, right? And it's like, at this point, the idea that you have to choose between veteran talent and youthful, I don't know, exuberance, but whatever the opposite of talent is, right? It's a misnomer. It's a false premise. The young guys are the best guys. You play better with the young guys. Oso was a plus 39 last night. Mason was a negative. Nick Richards was a negative. Both of those guys are talented centers too. They have their moments. But I'm at the point with all of them where Bud just has to choose. Like, sit someone, play Oso 30 minutes, maybe 25 minutes. That's fine. I mean, play Ryan Dunn 30 minutes a night. You know, you're better on the floor with Ryan than you are with Brad. You're better on the floor with Cody Martin than you are with Grayson through 2 games. You know, we'll see if that holds.
Yeah.
And you're better on the floor with Oso. The stat I posted today, the Suns are 9 points per 100 possessions better defensively with Oso on the floor this season.
And by the way, if Bud doesn't want to do it, because we're talking about playing guys who have a contract next year, if Bud doesn't want to do it because he thinks he's going to be fired next year and he's just trying to win these games, fire him now. Just get rid of him now.
Yeah, just fire him now and just tell Fizdale.
Honestly,
just tell Fizdale to take over and play the young guys.
Yes. Like, what is the point of this? Like, honestly, It's a bizarre decision that he's made throughout the season to not play these guys. And if there's really no basketball case for this team. Like, you can't make the case that they should all stay together. You can't make the case that the coaching has been good. You can't make the case that the front office has done a good job in the last few seasons. None of those cases are here, so you have to make the case for next year. And if you're making the case for next year, that includes playing Cody Martin, that includes playing Oso Ighodaro, that includes playing Ryan Dunn. And like I said, and like you said, it has made the team better. But I honestly believe, and I said this online too, there will be games where it doesn't. There will be games where, honestly, Mason Plumlee might be the better option.
I mean, dude, they're about
and they should still not play him. They should still not play Mason Plumlee.
They're about
they
to
should
play,
still play Oso Ighodaro.
They're about to face a murderer's row of the best teams in the NBA. I mean, after this next game against Chicago, which, by the way, tomorrow, Wednesday, March 19th against Chicago. Playback?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll announce that again at the end of the episode in case for some reason you missed us saying it just here. We'll do playback for Chicago. But yeah, some of the teams they're about to play, like Oso still lacks size. It makes sense that he was able to survive against a Toronto team that was starting, I don't even remember what his name is, at center, right? But there are going to be teams that embarrass them, him and Ryan Dunn both. They still need to play. They need high leverage situations. I don't want them just getting reps against, G League players for the rest of the year when we know that we could throw the veterans out there and they would be toast regardless. So they still need to play. There will be games where they get flipped on their ass, but they just need to play through it, to be honest.
Those games they would probably lose anyway if they played Mason, So there, and honestly, there's a better chance that the young guys put it together for a long enough stretch to beat good teams, like occasionally, than I believe would happen with some of the veterans. And by the way, I'm talking about guys that should play over Bol as well too. It's no fault of Bol here, but I've lost some faith in him as well. Just these other guys are higher potential, better players at this point, and they should play more minutes. I will say about Oso is I actually have, over the course of the season, maybe lost a little faith in him being good enough to be a backup center with his size, and he's just fully brought me all back in on him, just watching him play, and that's the power of actually giving these guys minutes, right? Because he is small. He does struggle to rebound, and he did a great job of it in this game, and I think a lot of credit goes to the rest of the guys, too, for also boxing out, including Devin Booker, who clearly is making a better effort to box out because he was really bad at it for the first 50 or so games of this season, but he's making a better effort now, and allowing somebody like him to do a better job. He had 9 rebounds in this game, but he's not very big. He's going to struggle with some size matchups. What he makes up for all of that with his brain and his ability to play with pace in the half court, I think is enough to just give him more minutes for the rest of this year.
And
because
it's keep going.
It's really Dario Saric-esque. I know I've made this comparison before, but like the side to side ball movement that comes when Oso Ighodaro is on the floor is fast, and that does make a difference over the course of a game. In that there's no catching it, assessing the floor, and then figuring it out. If there are quick ball movements, that allows for quick player movements, and that allows for more open shots and better shots at the rim. And that quick level of decision-making, I think, is really, really important for this team who tends to stagnate offensively pretty regularly. Not to mention, not every team will it work to switch everything. There are teams like Luka, for example, like you can't switch on Luka. You can't do anything against Luka, let's be honest, but you can't switch on him because he's going to destroy you.
Shea.
And yeah, Shea, you can't switch on Shea because he's going to destroy you. And maybe there's occasionally like a Jalen Brunson game where he'll put 50 on you or whatever. There are guys out there that are going to beat it. But having that in your back pocket is something that you could try to do. And also working in some doubles on top of that at the right moments like they did against Sacramento. Those types of things, I think, are things that you could develop on over time, and they will get better at them, but not without trying it, not without doing it more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like, and every time Book talks about, like, what do you see from Oso out there, I'm sure Katie has said it too. I just can't remember a specific instance, but they talk about his scheme versatility. That's really why he's out there. And it's like the thing above all other things, that and sort of just his brain that got Oso drafted. I would also just encourage people, you're talking about his half-court pace, just watch him in transition. Like, watch him run the floor on offense. And, this is maybe the slight virtue of the fact that Dunn and Oso have logged so many DNPs this year is that they don't take a possession off. They don't take a minute for granted. When they're in the game now, they're in it. And there are so many times, there were a couple times last night in that second quarter where Oso is just running on offense, not in a situation where he's going to end up getting the ball and like he's running because he's going to get an alley-oop lob like a guy like maybe Nick Richards would, but he's forcing a much more difficult cross match for Devin Booker, who's also in the game, right?
He's create open shots that way.
He's going to run as hard as possible down the floor so that some random guard has to panic and pick him up. Once that guard panics, the big, who's the last guy down the floor, now is on Devin Booker. And now once you force that cross match, Book has an easy driving lane. He can get the ball into motion. The defense is going to rotate. Somewhere there's going to be a 2-on-1 and the ball is going to move with energy. And it's those types of plays that are always created by the effort of a big like Oso. And, you know, Mason, I think, has done a good job of running the floor this year, too. I think it's a lot of why his net rating is, deceptively positive. And at times, Nick Richards is good with it, too. Really, the only center who's been horrible at it this year was Yusuf Nurkic, and that's part of the reason they got rid of him. But the energy he plays with, he gives them more transition opportunities. He increases the pace even once they get into the half court. He's just a really smart basketball player, and yeah, I've had a lot of fun watching him.
Yeah, and credit, by the way, to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker for like constantly every opportunity they get, begging through the media to play more with these guys. It's just like every time.
I mean, go back to
see them.
What game was it where KD was yelling at Bud, "You need someone in there who can guard"? Which game was that? That was,
I don't remember.
That was the clearest possible why is Ryan Dunn not playing call out.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, you know, Bud, we're at the point of the season where I would say that his hand appears to be forced into doing this. So he's finally doing it, but it's not for a lack of trying by the stars on this team, the two stars on this team, because Kevin Durant will constantly say it. Kevin Durant, by the way, I think does a great job with young players in general. He went to Ryan Dunn's brother's baseball game. I thought that was the type of thing that, you know, that leaders should do on a team. They should show support for these guys and their families. Devin Booker, after the game, was asked about the young guys by Amanda, and he said the effort, the energy, everything that they do out there is seen by everyone, and it's not something that we do very often, just implying that this team struggles with energy while on the floor and that they need these guys to play to make it better. And also, even just saying everyone sees it, I know it's not probably a direct shot at Bud, but it sure feels like it, and it makes me feel good when he says stuff like that, because I'm like, I sure see it. And you know, honestly, when we talk about it on this podcast week after week and Bud does nothing, it feels like a form of gaslighting.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like maybe I'm wrong in this scenario. Maybe I'm seeing the wrong thing. But then Devin Booker, Kevin Durant say the same thing, and they play, and then they play well. And I know it's against this Raptors team. I know. But Scotty Barnes did play. Emmanuel quickly did play. And honestly, this team has lost to worse teams than this season without the young guys playing. So I'm happy when they win.
I hate the fact that the season has come to the point where we can say this, but Chicago will be an interesting test. just because it's like, can you string 2 in a row against anyone? I don't care who the opponent is, but Chicago is like a reasonable basketball team. They're not the Hornets. They're not the Wizards. They're not good. But, right, it's like, can you beat anyone to make this 2 in a row? That would be super encouraging to see. And again, join us on playback for that. But, yeah, it is like gaslighting with Bud. The fact that the fan base has been so unanimous about this for months, and we've been arguing about all sorts of other bullshit all season long, but this is something that everyone's agreed on, and he just continues to make the wrong choices. Is what now, sort of has been digging his own grave, frankly. But yeah, Ryan Dunn. We talked about Oso.
Yeah.
I thought you were bringing up something really interesting about Ryan Dunn yesterday, talking about his floater, the non-restricted area paint shots for Dunn. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is something that we looked up a lot with DeAndre, and it's actually, I think, where DeAndre in particularly excelled. It's that if you could get him to get into the paint, he could make a shot even when there's defense. Because I think it's you don't really shoot in the paint in the non-restricted area unless there's defense at the rim, right? Because you're not just going to pull up in the paint when the rim's wide open. You're going to go all the way to the rim. So those shots, I think, come when there's good rim defense, and often are open because of traps on other guys on the floor, or because you're running out or attacking a closeout from a 3-point shot. And what Ryan Dunn has been doing lately, two things, and I think he gets his shot in two different ways. There was one new way yesterday, which we can talk about, but two ways that he gets his shot normally. He sets up as a screener in a pick and roll. The trap comes on Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. He catches it in the middle of the floor, shoots a floater against the defense at the rim, which is usually some sort of low man who is either a big or non-big, and he floats it right over them without getting all the way to the rim. Makes that a lot. The other way is the ball swings left to right, ball goes weak side, he attacks a closeout. There's no help. In the middle of the floor, he shoots a floater in the paint from a closeout on a 3-point shot. He makes that at a 48% rate. That's actually tied with Devin Booker. Now, Devin Booker shoots a lot more and probably a lot more complicated shots from that area, but it's the same percentage. And it's actually, the only other players that are really better than that get minutes are Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal.
Do you happen to have their percentages? I mean, KD's probably at like upper 50s or something crazy.
It's lower 50s. Actually,
Okay.
Brad's the best on the team at that shot. It's like 50.
It's really interesting.
But it does make sense, actually. I think the closer he gets to the rim, the more he's able to make that shot. It's like 55%. And also, honestly, let's be honest, a smaller sample size compared to KD and Book for Brad because he plays less.
Yeah.
So, less to look at there. Also, worse defenders on Brad. But overall, the third best, and Bol is up there too. I think Bol's actually the best on the team, actually, if you look at the stats. But the overall sample size is low, and he's a big. I think it's different when you're a big. For a smaller guy to make that shot relatively consistently, it gives you some options on a drive. 48% is not a super high percentage shot, It's not like a dunk at the rim.
It's
or anything,
it's not a build your offense around this type of points per possession or whatever. But it's a great bailout option when you have a guy who can. It's kind of like an isolation play, really, the way you're framing it, right?
Yeah. Because there's defense set.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're assuming that you're shooting over an outstretched arm, so there's already good defense. If you need to reset the offense less than 10 seconds on the shot clock, and you have a guy like Ryan Dunn develop his offense to the point where he doesn't have to just pitch it to someone else, right? Like he can do the straight line drive himself and finish over set good defense at a 50% rate, you take that. For sure you take that.
Yeah, and by the way, shot the most shots on the team yesterday. 16 shots.
He's not
overall.
shy. I mean, look, the 3-point shots are not really going in for him beyond 30%.
3 for 7 in this game. Good game for him there.
And 30% is like where I expected him to be in his after.
Yeah.
I'm still happy with how he's progressed as a spot up shooter for sure. But I guess my point being, all of the other ways in which he's progressed throughout his rookie year, his ability to be used as an on-ball screener and catch in the short roll and finish over the top of guys. Also the fact that, he's not afraid to just like punish the rim if he does see an open lane. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. It's stuff to build on. And can we get, what's the next small step? If you're in charge of Ryan Dunn's development over the summer and you see that he has this, non-restricted area paint game, what's your next step for his offensive development?
Well, I think you still continue to work on his 3-point shot overall.
Definitely, yeah.
That's really the main thing with him. And obviously, if you could find some on-ball juice on those drives where he can get all the way to the rim, maybe absorb contact, get to the line, turn some of those 2-pointers into three-pointers, basically, essentially, because of the free throws, that would be extremely valuable. I don't really think you need to rush his offense too much if you're going to continue to try to be pretty good. And I think for Ryan Dunn, that's actually a good place for him to be. Obviously, if you're completely tanking, you just give him the ball and just be like, do whatever you want, and let's see what you got, and we can build on that. But I don't think you really need to do that for the Suns.
I think that's...
I think that the level of which his game has developed this season makes a lot of sense. One, you just catch and shoot. That's how the season started.
Yeah.
That's all he was doing.
Yeah.
Catching and shooting, occasionally getting out in transition for a team that doesn't run. But the next step, they start closing out, and you find something to do on closeouts, and that was his floater. That's starting to come. And obviously, this is all stuff I'm sure he's done in college and stuff. I don't have all the film, but I'm sure he's done all of this.
I don't know. Virginia's offensive system, maybe in high school, but
they didn't run plays for him, really. Yeah.
No, they just told him to get offensive rebounds and be a garbage man.
Yeah, exactly. The third thing, I think, finding ways to be the potential ball screen guy is, I think, really an NBA level skill that is really valuable because there's just so much trapping in the NBA, and you can Bruce Brown him. Like we always use Bruce Brown as the example, but you can Bruce Brown him. You can find ways to actually make him be really great in that position. Draymond Green, obviously, best ever probably at that short roll screener on traps. But yeah, that's great. And if he can just continue to develop those things, that's great too. Do I want him to find a mid-range shot? Maybe occasionally, but not really. I would much rather him get to the rim and shoot the floater or shoot the three.
Like the one dribble pull-up Jimbo for him, taking, say, an 18-footer, I don't think is in his bag. And that's not something that I would want to sort of burden him with unless we're talking about he makes like big strides to his game 3 or 4 years from now, right? Because I'm looking at his page here. He's taken 8 official mid-range shots this season. He's 2 for 8. But if we can get to a point, his handle is not that steady. And so that's the other thing is I think the existential question with Ryan Dunn, if this was a bad team and you could just like Josh Jackson him, you could give him the ball all the time and say like work on your handle. But if they're actually trying to be good, I don't know how much he needs to work on his handle. I want him to be able to get into the paint, and then I want him to be able to counter with, I think, one move that isn't just the floater, right? So if he can develop not an 18-foot mid-range shot, but like a 12-foot little step back mid-range, I wouldn't mind that. As
like absorbing the contact and shooting, you mean?
Yeah, or be able to push through and get to the free throw line too. Of course, that's great. But it's just like he is so one gear straight line drive right now, and I would help slow his game down a lot and not feel as much pressure, I think, if he had something in his bag that allows him to change speeds. So that could just be a short step back or a short turnaround or something like, short, like still below the free throw line, but just like some slight in between game would be a huge step up for him next year, I think, for sure. And I don't think that's asking too much of like, that's not us asking him to be a 20-point per game scorer next year or anything, or have the burden of playmaking in his hands. It's just more about like better ways that he can be a bailout option on offense when other stuff isn't working.
The other thing I loved that they did yesterday was when the game started, they had Colin Gillespie and Ryan Dunn, actually both first and third quarter, I believe, full court press, just upping guys like on the entire when they were trying to take the ball out and running up the entire court.
Frankly, they were raptoring the Raptors. It's something that the Raptors have done to us for years, and we've never done it back to them.
You think about the starting lineups the Suns have had throughout this season, and there's been, I think, close to 30, I believe. The Suns, there's a lot of different guys who have started for this team. I believe there's close to 30 different starting lineups. We found a way to not have continuity with a team that hasn't changed very much throughout the season. But who would have done that before? Royce and Tyus? No, like that wouldn't have worked. Like those guys are too. You can't really do that with them. And just to have guys that you're starting on this team that are capable of doing that, and maybe part of the reason Colin Gillespie struggled a little bit offensively is because it was wearing him out a little bit. But he's not going to play 30 minutes. Ryan Dunn probably isn't going to play 35 minutes, and it's still pretty young. So you can put him out there to harass guys and actually use a ton of effort on the defensive end of the floor. That's pretty valuable to have. And also, it's not Tyus in that one dribble move. You're going to be in front of him anyway. Then you're playing 4-on-5. And that Colin Gillespie, credit to him, by the way. I wouldn't call him a great defender, but he's not getting abused out there. Like, he's not getting embarrassed on a regular basis. Maybe if he was guarding Luka or someone like that, it would be a struggle for him. But in this particular game, they didn't have a guy that was just going to take it to him like that. So you could put him in that full court press and just slow him down, give guys a better chance to work in the half court. And look, it led to the Raptors only scoring 89 points. So that was a good choice by Bud. And it's just one of those choices where without starting those two guys, I'm not sure you can do it. Because I don't think you can. You're not going to put Brad doing that. You're not going to have Book playing full court press. Like, you're just not. That's not how the NBA works. These guys are too important on the offensive end. So nice to have guys that are capable of doing that. And I don't know complain about doing it.
That's what I don't know if Brad is so important to this team on the offensive end that he couldn't full court press. But I just don't think he'd do it. He doesn't have the demeanor.
Yeah, and I think he had done it maybe a few times this year, but it's not going to happen on a game-to-game basis. And I know it's hard to do. Like, I understand I'm asking guys to do something that's really hard to do, but just do it. Just do it. Have the guys, if you're going to find reasons to play more guys, like this is a good one. Do something really aggressive with them that takes a lot of energy, and then you don't have to play them as many minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, just play the guys who take pride in every possession. And that's what they did last night, and hopefully they're here to stay.
You want to make a trade?
Make trades. Week 4. Is it week 4? How long have we been doing this?
Yeah.
Week 4 of trade of the week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Bradley Beal.
Yeah, it's your turn now. And this is a perfect week to talk about Bradley Beal.
I think this is such a perfect week to talk about Bradley Beal for a number of reasons, actually. I think we needed a break from the KD discourse. 3 weeks in a row, we've talked about potential KD destinations. I'm sure there will be more. But one thing that I think unites everyone in the fan base, almost everyone.
Besides Ryan Dunn, yeah.
I haven't had many people replying to me on social media this season with the handle, the username Bradley Beal Prime, for instance. Hasn't really happened to me. There don't seem to be too many of those Brad Beal stands out there.
Brad Muse. Yeah.
Brad Muse. There haven't been many Brad Muses. So I think most people agree that if you can get off this deal, that this trade really killed the Suns. Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, 4 first-round pick swaps, 6 second-round picks. That was the trade. Which, even when you say it like that, still doesn't sound like that much, and yet really killed the Suns. Like, it feels like something that wouldn't have been that hard for Brad to live up to, and yet killed the Suns.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult to get rid of him for all the reasons we know about, the no trade clause. But I can't imagine he's like thrilled to be here right now. And I have to imagine that there are certain destinations he and his family would be open to in the summer. And so I'm going to propose a few, and we're going to see what we've got here. Now, as I talk about these trades, I want everyone to keep in mind, I use the SpoTrack trade machine builder again, which is a useful tool. Everyone should just keep in mind that my priorities here are different than my priorities with a KD trade. If you trade KD, you're really trying to restock your asset pool, plus, maybe try and compete with a couple role players or whatever. But you want to get first-round picks. You want to get guys on rookie contracts who you think are still going to get better. The priority when you trade Bradley Beal, if you can do it, is just to get him out of here. It's not like, you can't be too choosy. It would be
just find any team that he would be willing to go to that is willing to take him.
That's really what it is, man. You're just
whatever you get back is going to be not as bad as a no trade clause.
You're taking his $55 million, and if you can turn that into probably other bad contracts, but contracts that are worth less than that, maybe even some of them are expiring or closer to expiring, maybe you get a pick or something. That's great. All of that, we take that, right? So the expectations with a Brad trade are different. They just are. Honestly, it might even end up being something where you have to execute a KD trade first and then use a pick that you get in the KD trade to attach to Brad.
Yeah.
To do a Brad trade, right? Like that might even be a conversation we have in the summer.
Or honestly, if they could use this pick in this current draft, that's like the 30th pick from Cleveland or whatever, that would be pretty ideal too.
I know you're right, but it would pain me.
It's going to be the worst pick they get.
I know.
It's not. It doesn't get any worse than that in the first round. So.
I know. Yeah, you're totally right. But okay, are you ready for some Brad destinations?
Yes, and I would love to hear. I mean, obviously, you can explain it, but I would love to hear your thought process in why these teams would be willing to take Brad. Because I think that's the hardest thing for me when I look through this.
That's such a good question, and I think that's the loosest logic of these trades.
Okay, cool.
But good. I'll try. I'll do my best.
We usually do one a week, by the way. I want to clarify with this. We usually just do one trade a week, and normally we would just do one trade a week because there's enough to talk about with one trade. But I think for Brad trades, you have multiple, right?
I have multiple just because I feel like it's not as interesting if we just talk about like one trade for expiring contracts for 30 minutes.
Yeah, let's do 3. Yeah,
and so I'm doing 3, but also understanding that this is going to be an ongoing conversation. We're going to have more conversations about this throughout the summer, I'm sure, and probably a list of like cities he is open to will be leaked at some point, I imagine. Right now, I'm just kind of going off of some speculation, but I think we'll finalize a list at some point, right? So
originally, this podcast was going to be about the ESPN article that was essentially a long interview with Matt Ishbia about the future of this team. And we can talk more about that as we go along because I think it's really going to inform the offseason. But just one quote from Bradley Beal in that article I think is at least relevant to this conversation, and I want to bring it up. Let me bring up the full quote from Bradley Beal. And I don't have it in front of me, but essentially Bradley Beal said, and if you have it, feel free, that he is still smiling because he's making a ton of money, he's playing basketball, and he has his no-trade clause.
He's smiling every day. I don't have it in front of me, but everyone has seen it because it is bad.
Yeah.
It is a very bad quote.
It's not something that makes him look... honestly, here it is. Okay. I'm still playing in the NBA. I still have the best job in the world, and I still have my no-trade clause, so I'm smiling every day. Relevant to this discussion in that he relishes the power that the no-trade clause gives him. Now, I will say, like, this is, as a fan, this is not great to read. But, like, as a human, of course he thinks that. Why would he not think that? He has full control over his destiny, and he's making a lot of money.
That's the power of collective bargaining. Like, the players have the ability to negotiate a no-trade clause into their contracts, and he successfully did it. So I actually kind of applaud him for saying something like that on the one hand, because it's, like, kind of funny. It's not funny when it happens to you. You just you don't want to be the fan base that it's happening to. I just think it's so funny that someone was also saying, I forget who, but it's like really the reverse Eric Bledsoe situation that we have on our hands. Like, which would you prefer, the Eric Bledsoe I don't want to be here, or the Bradley Beal you can't fucking get rid of me? You're not locked.
Smiling because I can't. LeBron meme smiling because I can't believe this is my life, except he's clutching his no trade clause. Yeah,
I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. It's what it's
Rorschach.
become.
Is he Rorschach now? Okay.
All right. Destination number 1. The Washington Wizards.
Oh, here we go.
Look, there's just something about home. Home is where the heart is. Something, I don't remember Bradley Beal's wife's name. Do you remember by any chance?
I don't remember.
She gives off live, laugh, love vibes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. I mean, like,
live, laugh, love, throw pillows.
Yeah.
I get those vibes.
Right. She's a millennial, so yeah.
And, there's something about the idea that Bradley Beal could still return home. He could return home for a price far less than what the Wizards paid initially to get rid of him. I mean, or, the sense that the Wizards got a bunch of assets. They could give up virtually none of those assets to go and get Bradley Beal back.
They could get assets to take him back. Yeah.
I hope not in the trade I constructed, but we'll see. Because, okay, what's in it for Washington if Bradley Beal goes back? Because I think there's an argument that Bradley Beal and his family, they could just pretend like Phoenix was a 2-year sunny vacation, maybe half nightmare, and leave it behind them, go back to Washington again, be in a community that they're comfortable with, a city that they're comfortable with, and just pretend like none of this ever happened. It was just a bad dream. And I would even argue people who are important to the city of Washington, D.C., and then who leave and come back, there's precedent for that. Grover Cleveland. Donald Trump. Bradley Beal could be the third. He could be the third in a lineage of people, Washington, D.C. people serving non-consecutive terms. Right?
We love Washington, don't we, folks? Yeah.
We all do. And so the reason why this works, why would this work? So here's the trade. The Wizards get Bradley Beal. The Suns get Chris Middleton, expiring contract. Rashawn Holmes, expiring contract.
Okay.
This is for next year.
Yeah.
And then I gave us our own 2026 and 2030 second-round picks back. 2 of the 6 second-round picks that we sent to the Wizards for Bradley Beal, we get 2 of those 6 second-round picks back and cap relief. That is the entire trade.
You got to at least give them one first.
Do you think I do?
Yes, I do.
So
why would they take his long-term money for that? I mean, what's the benefit for him?
So he would be under contract with them for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving up $50 million basically in potential salary cap buying power. Here's my argument. Who are the Wizards who are currently a 15-win team or whatever? Who are they realistically going to sign for $50 million?
Sure.
That is better than Bradley Beal on the open market.
It's true.
So
and they're going to be tanking for a few more years. Yeah.
They're going to be
Brad
in
has to be
development.
okay with that.
Brad has to be okay with maybe not winning for a while, but he'd be in a place
okay with that for a while, and apparently he's okay with that now.
Exactly. And he'd be back in a city that likes him more than Phoenix does.
And maybe he's playing with Cooper Flagg. Who knows?
Maybe he's playing with Cooper Flagg. Maybe he's playing with a really good Bilal Coulibaly and Alex Sarr and Bub Carrington 3 years from now, and they're back in the playoffs, and he's sort of the, he gets his redemption arc as the old turtle leading the young Ninja Turtles into the horizon meme. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know the context of that picture. I've just seen it before. So yeah. Well, what are your questions? Throw questions at me. You think I got to give a first-round pick to make this happen?
And I would still do it, by the way, for the record.
So for the Suns, Chris Middleton, I think we should specify, right? Basically here, you're getting $50 million in 2 role players next year, who then you don't have to re-sign. Now you could try and re-sign at least one of them. Rashawn Holmes was sort of a fan favorite. Granted, that was 7 years ago when he last played for the Suns, but he's basically still the same player who just runs and dunks. And we could have his mom back on the podcast 7 years later for a part 2. She was one of our first guests ever back in December 2018. So there's that. And then Chris Middleton is Chris Middleton. I think he'd be fine. He's kind of cooked in terms of
Okay, how about this? If you include a first-round pick, can we get Corey Kispert back? I don't know if the money works in that case.
I can't build it right now. What does Rashawn make and what does Kispert make?
That's
Do you have it in front of you?
But what does Chris Middleton make, actually, is the real question.
I don't have that in front of me either, but I'll pull it up.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because that would be, at least, you're saying, yes, we're giving up a first-round pick, but you get someone in a longer-term deal in Corey Kispert who Middleton
is 33. Holmes is 13. Kispert is
make almost the same.
Kispert is 14. So you could just punt Holmes on that. You could take back Kispert. Now, granted, Kispert's signed for the next 4 years. Are you sure you want that commitment? I think that's fine. He's a solid
player. He's pretty good.
Yeah,
you could trade him later if you need to. And also it makes you more able to trade someone like Grayson or Royce if you want to. Or you can flip him.
Totally redundant with Grayson. So I'd be willing to take in Kispert, but then I'd probably be trying to trade Grayson, to be honest with you.
And if you can get under the second apron in all of these trades, you can start aggregating salaries to get better players back anyway. So then you can combine Royce and Grayson, and you have Kispert left, and you can try to get somebody.
Oh, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. So if you take in Middleton and Holmes, obviously, after a year, you save $50 million, but even just next year, you've already shed $7 million, if that matters. So, to help you get out of the second apron.
I'll say this, and this was this is more of a problem that we're going to run into with all of these trades, but the biggest roadblock in this one would probably be Bradley Beal himself. I do think, and we did hear, and honestly, I think it was reported on later, that the Washington Wizards were willing to take Bradley Beal back at the trade deadline. So I do think there's a world where they'd be willing to do it again. It's just about what the Suns could work out in order to get that done, but I don't think it comes without giving them at least one first-round pick. And yes, it will be pathetic, and yes, it will be embarrassing to do that, but it's worth it, and I think you do it anyway.
Okay. I knew you were gonna say yes to all of these trades. It was more so just a question of maybe ranking them. So I'll move on to destination number 2. Destination number 2, the Miami Heat.
A team that does not want him.
Well,
there's 1 year less. I mean,
there's 1 year less on the deal. Pat Riley, Jimmy kind of owned you. He did. You sort of, you kind of have to make the splash. You kind of have to make the big splash. Maybe Bradley Beal could be their version of a splash. And what it would cost is next year is different than what it would cost this year. And the reason why is because Miami's contracts, their expiring contracts, would easily facilitate a deal. Mike, all you would need to do...
It's not Jimmy Butler anymore. Yeah.
It's not Jimmy Butler. Of course they don't want Bradley Beal if they have to give up Jimmy Butler, right? That makes no sense. But would they do Bradley Beal for expiring Terry Rozier and expiring Duncan Robinson? Terry Rozier is...
They might do that, yeah.
Terry Rozier is literally just a worse Bradley Beal on all fronts. Now, the one he is.
He's awful, by the way.
Yes, I know he's awful.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get rid of this guy.
No, you're right.
I'm trying to get rid of him.
It's context for the listeners more than anything.
So Terry Rozier, why does this work? Because Terry Rozier is just worse than Bradley Beal at everything, but he's also not like... He could play backup point guard for the Suns for one season, and then he makes $26 million next year, and then he's off your cap sheet. Duncan Robinson, you were just talking about Corey Kispert. What about Duncan Robinson? He makes $20 million next season, and then either he's off your cap sheet or you could re-sign him. But yet another player who is kind of redundant with Grayson Allen. But so you can bring in another shooter, then you can shop Grayson Allen.
I'm not joking when I say that I think Duncan Robinson would be better on the Suns right now than Bradley Beal is. So yes, I would do this.
I think there's a case for Miami to be made that you do this based on the idea that Rozier has been so bad, Beal is better, and you can reform Beal to a point where it just makes them look like a solid team next year. Now, how much you want him sharing the ball with Tyler Hero? I don't know. I think he'd be a decent partner in the backcourt with here, although, you know, kind of the same issue of like, can they fit together? Like, could he and Book fit together? And that's sort of the problem with all these places with Brad, right? Yeah. I think he would look solid next to Bam Adebayo. That I think is true.
And supposedly they're friends, yeah. So maybe it's warm and they could potentially compete, which I think Brad would be willing to go to Miami.
Do you like this more or less than the Washington trade?
I think I like it. Is there no picks going to the Heat, right?
No picks going to the Heat. I would even
ask. I think I like it more, yeah.
I would even start by asking for maybe Miami has a bunch of their own first-round picks. Can I get their 2031 protected first-round pick? That's literally what I would ask for, just to say I got a pick.
Yeah.
Protected, lottery protected. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't think they'd do that, but yeah, I would still.
I would start by asking.
I would do it. Let's hear the third one, and then I'll tell you how I rank.
Okay, the third one. I wanted to give you at least one 3-team trade. Try and get interesting. This 3-team trade is brought to you by Phoenix Suns, the Orlando Magic. They've become one of my favorite trade partners because
they are failing right now.
Because they're failing right now. Yeah. They're like. Clearly one of the teams that is it's easiest to build, I guess, like an agenda for them going forward, in that they need to start being good and their offense just sucks. So they're one of the easiest teams to like construct trades for from their perspective, because any trade you make from their perspective is just like, did we get better on offense? That's what they need to do. So team 1 is Phoenix, team 2 Orlando, team 3 the team that's getting Bradley Beal, not the Orlando Magic, although I did think about them in this case. It's the Chicago Bulls.
Interesting.
A nice city. A wonderful city to live. Maybe a little too cold in the winter. I don't know if that report about Bradley preferring warm weather cities was even true or not. But Chicago's a very nice city. Wonderful place for a family. It's an organization with a history of somewhat puzzling moves. as to and like a complete rejection of the idea of we are going to tank, right? That's the other important thing.
They're trying to get the 9th seed right now. Yeah.
So that's my best argument for why does Chicago want Bradley Beal? Because Chicago always kind of wants players who just keep them in the middle. I know that's not the best logic, but that's the best I can do for you. Chicago Bulls get Bradley Beal. The Orlando Magic get, in an incredible, long-awaited reunion, Nikola Vucevic. The Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns get
their best 3-point shooter now. Yeah.
Huh? Sorry.
that would be their best 3-point shooter.
Yes, I mean he would Karl Anthony Towns their offense, right?
Yeah.
It's like he would make
and their defense.
Well, sure, and
Maybe
that's
not, because they can have three massive guys on the floor.
exactly.
Actually, so
The
not.
idea would be maybe they can insulate around Vucevic, but they need offense, and he would create so many driving lanes for Franz Wagner and Paolo to start cooking, right? And would just, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, Vucevic, if originally I was like, can I get Vucevic on the Suns? Because that was something
Yeah.
I thought about
Yeah.
when we were doing KD trades too. What I realized, though, is Brad makes $50 million. Vucevic makes $20 million. And Vucevic is way better than Brad. He just is. And is a better contract situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was basically not possible in a way that I could figure out for the Suns to get the $20 million player who is better. And then they also need to take back other salary in order for the trade to work. So, yeah, that's why Vucevic is going to the Magic. The Suns are getting Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Patrick Williams coming to the Suns. Ayo Dosunmu and Tristan da Silva. And so,
Oh, that's interesting, actually.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, one more year on his deal at $20 million. He's fine. He's playable. He's not great, but he's a role player. Patrick Williams, this is the hit that you're taking as part of this trade.
Yeah.
He's signed for 4 more seasons at $18 million a year, and he's not that good. Now,
I think you can make the case he's bad.
I think that would be fair. The glass half full is that he's still 24 or something. I don't know. That maybe he looks better in a different context, and that even a guy who is bad but making $18 million is better than a guy who is bad and making $50 million, such as Bradley Beal. Patrick Williams just turned 23. This is his 5th season in the NBA. So that's the case that you can make. Tristan da Silva, I actually traded for him in the past in my KD trade a couple weeks ago. Now, this is not my favorite player in the world or anything. It's sort of just coincidence, but I think he's solid. And I would love to have a player on a rookie contract who's cheap and cost-controlled for a couple more years and who I think could easily slot into a rotation as a wing piece, a depth piece, and could maybe get better. You know, so like that's sort of just a coincidence that Tristan da Silva just happens to be a player who makes like $4 million, which is what I needed to make the trade work. But I would love to have him. And Ayo Dosunmu is an expiring contract next year, but is also 25 years old and has only been in the NBA for 4 or 5 years. And I think is another one of those cases of, well, you give him a 1-year tryout, you could have that money come off your books, or it could be the start of a role player who actually turns into a pretty important piece for the Suns for the next 4 or 5 years who you end up extending. I think that could go either way. So, yeah. No picks in this one.
I like this one. I like this one the least, I think.
That is fair.
And it's just the long-term money you're taking back of Patrick Williams. But I think the idea conceptually of a trade where Bradley Beal goes out and the Suns get Patrick Williams back is probably the most the most realistic, not ridiculous, the most realistic idea we can have, because it's a not good player on. It's bad money. Essentially, right? It's bad money.
It's $18 million of bad money. The other two trades, you're getting a completely clean book if you choose to do so. $50 million
after
of clean money
next season.
After next season, right? You're basically
Which I think is good in multiple ways. One, if you put together a team that actually competes, maybe you can find a way to have cap space to add to that team later. If you put together a team that's terrible and Devin Booker wants to leave, then you have the cap space to take on bad contracts and get more assets like picks to start your rebuild era of the Suns. So cap space is more valuable. So, neither of those are old. I mean, one of them is more fun and you have a good team, but the other option less fun, but just a more realistic option. If things go south, you have to have ways to pull the plug. But honestly, we haven't talked about it much, but that's not going to happen under Matt Ishbia, according to him. So we'll see. So if I had to rank, first of all, good work, hard. Did you have any other teams that you considered that could potentially want Bradley Beal that he would go to?
Milwaukee was another one I thought about.
Yeah, that's not a bad one.
Milwaukee's a hard, because they'd be in the same place that the Suns currently are, where Giannis makes 50 plus, Lillard makes 50 plus. Obviously, you're not trading either of those guys for Brad. So that's what makes that difficult. But I could conceive them wanting him and him wanting them.
Yeah, it's not bad. Another team that I looked at was Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't own all their own picks. They're still trying to be kind of good, and I thought maybe you could find a way to put him on that team, but I couldn't really figure out a trade that would work. They just don't have a lot of big, huge contracts that you can move off of that team. So yeah, it's difficult to find teams that actually want him.
The-
I would be
the
curious
big
if
thing-
somebody finds an Atlanta trade or somebody finds other teams. Send
Yeah,
them to
feel
us.
free.
I'd like
Feel
see
free
if
to
we
send
can-
us other trades. The big thing that I was looking for is just, can I get at least one big expiring deal of $20+ million? And so that's how I landed with the Heat have Terry Rozier. That's a big contract. The Wizards have Chris Middleton. You know, those are big contracts where if you can get that money off your sheet, you're starting to feel much, much more comfortable, not this summer, but next summer, of the type of place you're in.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. What was the first one again? The first one was who was it?
Middleton, Holmes, and a couple of our own second-round
Okay,
picks.
Wizards, and then you have the Heat,
And then I have
this
Rozier,
one.
Duncan Robinson from the Heat, maybe a pick, maybe not.
I think I'd go directly in that order if I was ranking them 1, 2, and 3.
Washington, Miami, and then Chicago.
And including, if you can include a first-round pick to Washington to make it more realistic and get Kispert back. Now they get a first-round pick, they get off some money. I
Man,
guess not
Washington
really. They
has
add
so
into it.
many. I know you probably can't. You're going to just tell me I can't get a prospect. But I'm thinking because of getting Tristan da Silva in one of the trades, Washington has so much young money.
In this case, our prospect would be Kispert. I know he's older, but that's just kind of what you're getting back in this case.
They're not going to trade Sarr. They're not going to trade.
Honestly, maybe they think
Bub.
they can get a first round pick for Kispert either way. Kind of doubt that, if I'm being honest. But maybe they think they can do that without this trade, and they wouldn't do it. But even without that,
Can I get
consider it.
Keyshawn George?
Probably
Another
not, no.
shooting,
I would say.
a 21-year-old shooting guard, another shooting guard for this team. Maybe
Yeah,
he's
no,
your
I don't
next
think so.
Devin Booker.
Yeah, who knows? Good work. I think those are all interesting. If you have any other Bradley Beal trades, feel free to send them our way. I'd like to see them. Hang out with us Wednesday on Playback to watch the Chicago Bulls game. We're going to watch that one. The last one that we watched together was a win, by the way, and it was very fun. So join us for Playback. Maybe we'll be on a roll. I think our record on Playback is still a lot better than the record on the season. So maybe we'll continue that luck against the Chicago Bulls. We're just picking the right games, I think, more than anything else. And then if you'd like to join our Patreon, patreon.com/thetimeline. We appreciate all you that are on it right now. And yeah, we'd welcome you with open arms if you decide to join at this point of the season. But thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back with a midweek episode, and join us on Playback.